Each case is different, and again, most of the time it is that there is consent, it's whether it's invalid consent. So blackout is kind of a phrase used for memory coding and whether you have memory of something that occurred. And so somebody that is in blackout cannot make a rational decision. The questions that we get around cases often have to do with whether somebody knew or should have known if somebody was in that state, whether blackout or other incapacitation. The accused person says, I had consent. I received verbal affirmative consent. The problem is it's invalid because of the incapacitation, because of the state that the person is in. So then the question becomes whether the person knew or should have known.
Is it possible for someone to be incapacitated to the point that they couldn't consent, but for the school to also find their alleged assailant not responsible for that situation?
If the evidence shows that there was no way that they knew or should have known.
But if somebody wasn't aware that someone was in a blackout, how can we hold them responsible if the person's presentation to them seemed like someone who wasn't incapacitated or even drunk? And so as professionals, all we have is what is before us to evaluate. And again, not finding someone responsible does not always equate to the fact that a harm didn't occur. It just means that we don't have enough information to make a determination about a violation of our code. And in meeting that standard, if it doesn't meet the preponderance of the evidence, it's not the university making a judgment of whether a sexual assault occurred or not. It's really looking at the evidence that is presented and determining whether it meets the preponderance of the evidence to hold the other student responsible.
And if the evidence isn't there to hold somebody responsible, we don't take action against them. It protects both sides because, we can't, if there's evidence to show that the person would not have known that the consent was valid, then you can't hold somebody responsible for what they shouldn't have known. Regardless of whether a person is found responsible, those support systems can continue for the person impacted by the conduct. So just because we haven't reached a preponderance of the evidence to hold somebody responsible and don't want to violate their due process or their rights to be on campus because the evidence hasn't fallen out that way, the person that was impacted is still, our priority is to get them continuing with their education and ensure that they complete their degree.
They are very complicated issues, and there's no doubt when anybody is harmed in our community, it's one too many, right? But there is no perfect scenario for the people that do what we do in terms of resolving these issues.
We do our best with the information that we have to come to a fair conclusion.